Welcome to the SEI Podcast Series, a production of the Carnegie Mellon University Software Engineering Institute. The SEI is a federally funded research and development center sponsored by the U.S. Department of Defense. A transcript of today's podcast is posted on the SEI website at sei.cmu.edu/podcasts.
Welcome to the Carnegie Mellon University Software Engineering Institute podcast series. My name is Ipek Ozkaya, and I'm the technical director of our group, Engineering Intelligence Software Systems at the SEI. Today, it is my great honor to introduce my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Grace Lewis, a principal researcher at the Software Engineering Institute and the lead of our Tactical and AI-Enabled Systems Initiative. Grace was recently elected as the president of IEEE Computer Society for 2026. And in today's podcast, we will discuss her plans to advance the field of computer science as IEEE Computer Society president in 2026 and president-elect for 2025. Grace, you have recorded so many wonderful podcasts with the SEI, but for those audience members who may not be familiar with you or your work, can you give us a little bit about what you do at the SEI and yourself?
Oh, absolutely. Like you said, I lead a team here at the SEI called Tactical and AI-Enabled Systems, where we look at developing and transitioning practices for the engineering of both tactical systems as well as AI-enabled systems. I'm also a principal researcher, like you said, and my research area for many years has been looking at emerging technologies and how these change the way we engineer software systems. Currently, I'm looking at how AI and ML, AI, or artificial intelligence and machine learning, are making us adapt the way we develop software systems, how requirements change, how design changes, how architecture changes, and, for example, testing. And in particular, for this year, my focus has been on test and evaluation of machine learning systems.
How about a couple of fun facts about yourself?
Ooh, fun facts about myself. I enjoy reading. I read about between 20 and 30 books a year. I read a lot of science fiction and fantasy. That's my favorite genre. I also use scrapbooking techniques to develop greeting cards. I haven't been into a card store in many years. And family. Family is a big thing. I have 3 adults now in my house, which is great.
While you and I and a lot of our colleagues at the Software Engineering Institute and Carnegie Mellon University are very familiar with IEEE Computer Society, again, not all of our audiences might be. Can you tell us a little bit background about IEEE Computer Society, their work, how they advance computing, and how does this work in particular fit with the mission of the SEI?
Yeah, sure. So the Computer Society is the largest of 39 societies within IEEE. The focus of the Computer Society, not surprisingly, is computer science and technology. And their mission is to advance the practice of computing and technology, but also to engage professionals in this advancement as well. So engaging professionals, whether they come from industry, from academia, from government, et cetera. And this is also very aligned with what the SEI does because software engineering is a big part of computing. In fact, one of the technical communities within the society is software engineering. And if you look at the mission of the SEI, it really is about advancing the practice of software engineering. So it almost seems like the two missions go together very well.
And both organizations deal with similar challenges here and there. So this is actually a very, very well-aligned activity. Obviously, heartfelt congratulations on your very well-deserved election as the IEEE Computer Society President 2026. Could you please talk a little bit about your own history with the organization and why you felt that it was important to bring your experience to this important role?
Sure. I started volunteering with the Computer Society about 15 years ago. The Computer Society is split into 5, I would say, they call them boards, but 5 areas of activities that they do to engage with professionals. Let me start from the ones I am not involved with because it's easier. So one is publications, which you know very well as past editor-in-chief of IEEE software. So one is publications, the other is standards, the other is professional education and activities. There's also membership and geographic activities, and there's one called TNC, which is dear to my heart, which is technical activities and conferences. Usually when people start volunteering for the society, they come in through one of these areas. For me, it was technical activities and conferences. I was elected member at large for the technical community on software engineering, not surprising. And I started as a member at large, and when you're elected member at large, you basically contribute to any activities that the community is doing. So I was able to do some good work there. And as I started learning about technical communities, I started to see like how important it is to volunteer, because volunteering is not only about giving back, but it's also about changing what could be better, what you don't think is right. And so when I was approached by the vice president of TNC, of the Technical Activities in Computing and Conferences, to become a member at large for their executive committee, I'm like, well, this is great, because then I'll be able to see not only the technical community on software engineering, but all of the 30, I believe right now, 30 different communities that exist within the Computer Society. And from there, I was asked to be treasurer, so I became more of a like, oh, let me see how finances work for this. So I started to learn about how the society functions, and in general, what it means to be a nonprofit, not from the membership side, but from the leadership side. And from there, I was asked to be vice president of TNC. Then I ran for second vice president, and I was thankfully elected. Then I ran for first vice president, and now I ran for president-elect last year, and here I am.
Well, let's talk a little bit about volunteerism, because our listeners might be thinking about this is great, and for us, it fits with the SEI mission. But why should our listeners be part of IEEE Computer Society? What are some of the ways they could get involved?
Right.
And what do you think, why it matters? I mean, you and I are big, long-time volunteers, so giving some insight to, I think, our audience would be good.
So I'm a lot about giving back. I mean, we are part of a community, software engineering community, and I feel like I've gotten a lot from being a part of the community. I mean, it's a community that has seen me grow in my career, that has supported in my career, and it's time to give back. It's time to give back, because I see all these people that are where I was, 20, 25 years ago, that are coming up. And so one part of it is giving back. But I think the other part is growth. So before I started volunteering for the Computer Society, I didn't have a lot of experience in all the things that I've been talking about. How do you lead a nonprofit? What does that mean? Being treasurer, like how do finances work? How does that work? Like how do conferences finance themselves and all that? So it's also, I think it's a great opportunity for somebody that wants to grow in leadership. Like if maybe you're very technical, but you have this like, I wonder what it is to. And so it's a very safe environment to start learning about leadership and starting growing in that area. And the third is what I said before. I mean, societies aren't perfect. No company is perfect. And if you can get to a position where you can say, I think we should change this because the society would be better, the members would benefit better from this change. Or maybe it's like, look at this great thing that the society is doing. I want to put more into that because that is a great thing. So it's about giving back, it's about growth, and it's also about change.
And it's also about probably all the people you interact with and how you learn from all these individuals like yourself. People who are volunteering will be interacting with you and will learn a lot from both your technical expertise and your volunteering expertise in IEEE Computer Society.
And it's not only that, but it's the amazing people that you get to work with, like people that you've read the textbooks and it's like, oh, we're on the same board together. That's great. So it's getting to grow your network and benefiting from that growth, but also people benefiting from it. So, for example, if I'm organizing an activity, a conference, and I need a keynote speaker, I have so many people to choose from, right? So, but also, like when they ask for a favor, you give back. So my network has also increased greatly, which I think is great for anybody that is starting a career or continuing to grow their career.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about your plans during your presidency. What strategic initiatives do you plan to implement once you assume office? Although it starts this year, so maybe you can talk about the progression of the roles.
So the way the presidency works at the IEEE Computer Society, it's that it's a 3-year engagement. So like you said at the beginning, I am the 2025 president-elect, which means I was just elected. I'm going to be president in 2026, and then I'll be past president in 2027. So basically, in my first year, I learn and I build. In my second year, I execute. And in my third year, I mentor. So basically, you serve all the 3 roles. So for those of you that follow my campaign, I was very big on a couple of issues. So first is student chapters and early career professionals. We really need to to have this pipeline of not only of volunteers, but just of people going in through our society or our activities and all that stuff. So working with early career professionals and students, which are extremely active. So membership in geographic activities is the part of the society that looks at membership, but also at the student chapters. They are so great. They're full of energy, and I want to be able to take that energy all the way through becoming president. Like make sure that all these people go through, grow in their careers, and eventually become the leaders of the society. Increasing industry participation is also very important for me. The society is still not very academic, but its membership is a larger percentage is academia, and I would like to engage more with industry professionals because the two have so much to learn from, and it would be great to have that. Creating better paths for emerging technologies is also important. I want to make sure that the technical communities remain like up to date, with all the changes that are happening, and have an easy path for people to propose activities, like to bring emerging technologies into the society.
And that's such a strength for you. That's
I
what
know.
that's like your passion and strength with the work that you've done.
A pipeline for the volunteer base. Like with any society that relies on volunteers, sometimes it's difficult because people have very busy careers, very busy lives. But I can tell you that you can manage. Like you can manage to find some time to volunteer because as I said, it's very important to give back. But creating that volunteer pipeline so that people are motivated to volunteer and being able to recruit good people, to keep them engaged, to recognize what they do, that to me is very important. Transparency of goals and activities, I think, is also important, especially for a nonprofit organization. Our current past president started a series of webinars where it focused on what does TNC do? What does publications do? So I think that's very important because as people get to know how the society functions, and maybe they feel more engaged and compelled to volunteer. So that's also important. And also value. I want people to see like what is the value, and make sure that is really very, very clearly stated. I mean, I am a member of the Computer Society because it gives me this value. So basically, those are my points.
The transparency is actually very exciting because it allows people to also identify how their own professional goals might overlap.
Yeah.
And that way, maybe it's not an added time, but it's actually a win-win where they're using something which also advances their own existing goals rather than adding time to that. So
Absolutely.
That's excellent. I'm excited to see these as you unroll them. So we know that the computer science careers are very critical. The need is increasing, but also with each emerging technology, it goes through a shift. And there's a decline that a number of areas globally are seeing in enrollment in computers related careers. So you talked a little bit about student chapters and all that, but what are some of the other existing or new initiatives to bring new professionals to computer science careers, and what is the role that IEEE Computer Society can play in that?
Right. Okay. So one of the main activities that the society is working on this year with its current president is creating a stronger link between student chapters and local chapters, because when students develop their chapters within the university, they're very active. And what happens is sometimes is that we lose those members because they're very active as students, but they don't see okay, I graduated my student chapter. Where do I go next? So it's creating the links between the student chapters and the local chapters. And so, for example, when the local chapters have events, the students are invited to become that and to start growing their network, because for them, as they start their careers, that is very important. So that's an example of what some of the activities that the society is doing at the membership and geographic activities level to make sure that those very enthusiastic students continue their careers as industry, academia, government, wherever they're going, and bring that energy with them. So that's an example of activity.
Yeah, especially if you move from Pittsburgh to Chicago, you still know that Chicago local chapter is to your service as well. So those are actually great initiatives. Well, Grace, I cannot let you go without talking about the current work you're doing, although you mentioned it a little bit. So what are some of the things that are exciting going on in your work, and what are you working on? And what might be some of the things that the audience might be interested in from that perspective?
So we just started a project called Continuum, and that's where all my research energy is going into these days. Continuum is looking to establish a better practice of test and evaluation for machine learning capabilities. What we see in practice is that people don't really know how to test these machine learning capabilities yet, even though machine learning has been around for a while now. And so what we're doing is this project is building on a past project called MELT, where we created a process and a tool set that helps in two ways. It helps developers of machine learning models better design and test their models, because it forces model developers to think beyond just accuracy. Like I just have to build my accurate model in that very narrow point of view, and to saying, okay, I need to understand how this machine learning model fits within the larger system, and what are those requirements that the system is placing on my development. So it's forcing model developers to really think about that. So what happens in the end, if you bring the system context in, is that most likely when you field that model, it's going to be more relevant because it you know the system context, you know the operational context. So that's the part that builds on MELT. But also, especially within the DoD, there are test and evaluation organizations that do different type of testing along the way. And so Continuum is also looking to extend MELT, that tool set, that process, to generate data and evidence that test and evaluation organizations can use to say, okay, this part was tested, I really need to focus on this part. Or they can say, because now test cases, because that's an important part of MELT, are a first-class artifact, I can bring those test cases in that test code and I can repeat it, I can extend them. But basically, it's to create more integration between the different testing organizations within the Department of Defense.
And to give some hints to our listeners, MELT machine learning test and evaluation tool is open source. It's available from our website. Some organizations are starting to play around with it. And I know the team would love to hear feedback if the audience is willing to try it out, and there's information about that as well. Well, Grace, this, as always, has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time with us. Congratulations again in this new role. And we know great things will come out during these. The IEEE Computer Society has been supporting the software engineering and computer professionals. And with your leadership, we're looking forward to some of the new initiatives. For our audience, we will include links in the transcript to resources mentioned during our conversation. And finally, a reminder to our audience that all our podcasts are available on SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, and the SEI's YouTube channel. If you like what you see and hear today, please do give us a thumbs up. Thanks again for joining us, and looking forward to your feedback.
Thanks for joining us. This episode is available where you download podcasts, including SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio, and Apple Podcasts. It is also available on the SEI website at sei.cmu.edu/podcasts and the SEI's YouTube channel. This copyrighted work is made available through the Software Engineering Institute, a federally funded research and development center sponsored by the U.S. Department of Defense. For more information about the SEI and this work, please visit www.sei.cmu.edu. As always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email us at info@sei.cmu.edu. Thank you.